So I think all of you know that the category is graphic design for straight to the web. Crawshaw Design as a full-service digital media and graphic design firm, which is a lot more. We have also premier web hosting. Is this working very well?
It's not very good.
It's not working. Is it working?
It's working, but hold on.
Okay. So anyway, the topic today is, you've heard the expression, you can't judge a book by its cover. Well, I think you can judge a book by its cover to some degree. So that's what I'm going to talk about, because one of the things we provide is book design and development and publication for people. So we've been doing that for several years, and so I'm going to start this off here. So I'll start by going way back to my childhood. This is me ready to take on the world, my short stint as a cowboy. So when I was a kid, you know, I really was attracted to digital art, and that's probably why I became a graphic designer eventually. I ironically hardly read at all. I could read, but I just wasn't interested. I didn't read comic books. I liked the pictures. I occasionally read a little book or two or something from it. But it took me a while to realize that, you know, a great visual image inspires imagination, creates a story. And so I would look at pictures like this, and I would just be fascinated by it. And they would, you know, good paintings and stuff tell a story just in a static image like that. You know, I love things like this would inspire me, and I would come up with stories of my own in my head. This is one of my favorites from Crawshaw. It's St. Matthew and the angel, where the angel is inspiring him to his writing. So it actually took me till I got into college that I suddenly got the idea and realized that novels are a visual art, or can be. I quote here, like atoms begetting atoms that beget molecules when uniquely linked form a DNA of indelible visions. So I really got interested in novels, creating novels. And I was 22, I came up with the idea for my first novel, and I started writing novels, and I wrote 3 novels in 25 years that were terrible. And it took me that long to actually get to the point where I realized I was good. And this is the first novel I published, Exploits of the Satyr. It's an epic tale of a tragic comic chronicle of a man who belatedly realizes that he was procreated by members of a cult. They were trying to create the second coming of Christ. It's a comedy, it's a drama, but it's a psychological thriller about artificial intelligence. So what I love about this is that trying to combine my love of visual art with the story that follows is to come up with something that is like a painting. And when I'm reading a good book and I come across an interesting passage, you know, I'll often stop and I'll flip over and I'll stare at the cover of the book. And if it's a good cover, it tells you something about the story. It's a hint. There's clues in it about what you're reading. My second novel, Heretofore, is interesting. It's a fantasy about a young girl that inexplicably falls from the sky into a world where all the characters are anthropomorphic characters, and there's 12 of them. They teach her life lessons and how to find her way back home. God, Sex, and Psychosis is a psychological thriller. It's about multiple personality disorder, or dissociative identity disorder, which I call it now, and a serial killer. And which interesting story behind this, I was giving a book talk at the book passage, and one of the staff came up to me and said, "Oh, I'm reading your book and I love it, you know." And so I just want to let you know, I didn't know anything about you, but I saw the cover, the title, and I said I just had to find out what this book was about. And so sometimes covers designs can actually get you to have an audience. Portrait of a Rainbow is a young man. This is a magical realism. It's simply put that it's about simple gifts of kindness can save lives. All this. If you go to my website, toddcrawshaw.com, you can read the synopsis more and actually read sample chapters of these different books. The Sinner's Edge Revisited is a book that it's about the universe and time as a spiral, and there's 4 books combined into the one. The first one is a beginning of dawn of civilization, and the last one is future travel, and it's characters that are reincarnated through time. This one here, Goddess, and you just read this book, and it's kind of taking a modern twist on the myth of Medusa for modern women, powerful women living within the norms of a patriarchal society. Wow, what's going on with my voice? That is my latest book. It hasn't been published yet. I'm still having it copied and read. Students can read it, but it'll be coming out. It's a love story, and combined with a mysterious death of a renowned artist known for her enigmatic paintings, that she goes insane after claiming that she's seen God. So they're all little strange tales. So a book cover is a critical part of the publishing process. It's the first thing that a potential reader will see. It attracts the reader, it's supposed to convey information, evoke emotions, create a brand, and indicate quality. So I've been doing this for a while. This is an earlier book way back with Life on the Balance Beam I did for Paula Statman, A Guide to Positive Living in a Precarious World. It's a self-help book. So you can see it's going to be comical and funny and lighthearted and so forth, and kind of gives you what you're going to get. This is another one by a physician, Don't Jettison Medicine, to self-help for the medical profession of all the stress that they have to deal with and how to overcome it and still stay in the profession. There's another a whole different kind of idea with a book challenging, trying to find the how to get rid of the job you hate and to find the career you really love. And so this is another self-help. I lost my retainer. There's an orthodontic lab that they created this book. It's spiral bound. It has cartoons throughout. It's directed to kids. They wear retainers and some dental offices, and it actually sells pretty well. So consider your book as a marketing tool. I mean, so when you learn a business, you're all in a profession, you're all experts in your field, you can write a book about it, and you can use it as a marketing tool. This is a house painter, and he created this handbook for do's and don'ts, and things that all experiences he had, bad things that happened, how do you overcome it, and what do you do right for painting. Done several books for Bob, tax briefs, and the book doesn't have to be big. This one's like 40 pages. He sells it, but he also gives it away to clients, potential clients. It's a way to market yourself, your business. I mean, think about it. You can easily write a 40-page book on something, your profession. It's not that expensive. This is called Home of the Brave. It's how to overthrow the tyranny of stuff. The client is the owner of a company called Senior Settlers, and she works with people that are downsizing, moving out, and it talks about the getting rid of junk and the psychological reasons why people don't want to downsize, and it's a really good book. But she gives this out to potential clients and also sells it on the internet. The Whole World is Nuts. This was a book written by Alan Beyer. I don't know if you know who he is. He died recently. He had Beyer, California. It's women's apparel. Very successful. Made lots of money. So much money that he became one of the buyers of the Giants that helped keep him in San Francisco years back. And I worked on this book with Bernie Blutman. You remember Bernie? He brought me into this job. And and basically he wrote this to give out to family and friends. He put on a big, huge event with people at Giants. Willie Mays was there, all the people, and he just had a lot of money, and he wanted to be able to show it. It was a terrific book. I've done several books for this person. She's Greek. She writes her poetry in Greek, then it's translated into English, so it's both English and Greek, and that's one of the covers. This is a sci-fi book about an alien invasion. And so, effective cover designs, you have to know the story, in my opinion. And one of the reasons why I get hard is because, for example, this one, I read the manuscript, the entire manuscript book before I come up with a cover design. I usually come up with 3 cover designs and work on it with the client and go through different stages. But this was a memoir about her husband that came down with Alzheimer's, and it was a tragedy. He was a bright professor with mathematics. He lost his mind. It was just a very sad tale about how she dealt with it. They created a monarch little sanctuary in their backyard, and it really helped her through the process to when he finally died. This one's called Deathless. It's a visionary satirical look at the Holy Trinity in heaven, and death is depicted as a gorgeous woman that feels unappreciated for her role of killing people, or basically taking them over to the other side. So she ends up digitally putting out on the internet a death list, that so if anybody wants to know when they're going to die, they can find out. The question is, would you want to know if there was such a list? And it's an entertaining tale. Here's some classic book cover design failures.
Oops.
This one's a copy of the one, Moby Dick, the whale. It's a picture of a shark. But this is actually published.
These are real covers?
Yes. Hound and the Baskervilles. This is supposed to be a ferocious mastiff bloodhound, you know. I don't know if you ever read the story. This speaks for itself. And then this one, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I don't know what they were thinking when they put that. I don't know if that has anything to do with it. And this classic romance, but you're a horse. I don't know about that. But anyway, so here are some book cover pet peeves that I have. Can anybody guess what my pet peeve is about these covers?
Author's name is bigger than the title.
Say that again?
The author's name is bigger than the title.
Exactly. Yeah. I just, I know marketing. You become famous. They want to put the name out there. It makes sense. But, to me, it's art. The cover design is art. The author's name should be secondary or third or whatever to the image and to the title. But this is what the marketing.
Isn't there certain situations where you just run to buy James Patterson's book, so I want his name really big?
That's it. Well, that's the whole idea of marketing. I mean, I'm not saying it's not a good plan, because you became famous and you're buying the name and not the book. It's just my pet peeve, because I love the fact of designing a really good cover and that tells something about the story inside. And this is just like big name, I mean, it's just my
It
pet
does
peeve.
smack of airport bookstore, doesn't it?
What?
It smacks of airport bookstore where all you see is the title.
Yeah. So this is what I consider alternative book covers. So posters for movies are really like a cover design for a movie. They're trying to draw you in to watch a picture. This is one we designed for Show Me the Picture. It started with Jim Marshall, and kind of gives you an idea. And also video, book trailers, and movie trailers, which we've done several of those too. I mean, the cover image we post on social media and stuff hopefully will draw you in to want to watch the video and then go to the movie. This is a poster design by one of my daughters, who created this, and it's she and her husband created a short film called Female Captive. It's a comedy drama about a woman that starts off, she's held captive, and she doesn't know what is happening, what's going on. But it's all the things that go on in her mind, all the personalities of how she thinks she can escape, she can't escape, and it's quite good. It's funny. But this, gives you an idea of what the movie's about. Also, CD covers, we've done a few of those. So they're kind of like a book cover too. I mean, what's the music inside going to be like? This was another one here for the Beer Scouts. So we do a lot of cover stuff. I've written one stage play. It's called Amulet, and this is the cover for that. If you want to know more about it, you can check out the site. And I've written a few screenplays. It's called Retreat. This actually won a Best Comedy competition in a Cannes Screen competition, and didn't get any callbacks for it, but it's a good book. Light Years in the Dark. I write some books, short stories, and I've also wrote a book what I call story poems. I kind of coined the idea of combining a story and a poem. And since I'm doing this and I've got you as a captive audience, I'll give you a little taste of what's inside, since we're talking about writing. So in this book, there's like 55 of these. On my website, I created visual art for each one of the poems, which is free to come and look at. Here's one that's called Dance. I'll give you an idea of what it's about. There was a woman who danced herself to death, and no one knew why. A crowd gathered to witness her collapse. They stared at her lifeless body until a man dressed in black took it upon himself to bury her. People stood at her gravesite, confused by the void in their lives left by her absence. In stony silence they came, compelled by gravity, tossing flowers, casting judgment, offering little more than unenlightened commentary on her demise. Untimely, senseless, a shame. Then a random comment caused frowns. Maybe she was happy. So that's the kind of idea of combining a short story with a poem. I'm not going to read a lot. Some of these are long, but I will read the last one, which is called Years. The first one is called Years. Light, and the last one is called Years. This is the shortest of them all. The river asked me, let's start again. The river asked me who I was to be, gazing so longingly into her curving body of cascading dreams and shifting beauty. And that's the image. So, I want to talk about today, for businesses, what is your cover design? You know, I used to do so many brochures. Now we hardly do any brochures because your brochure is basically your website. All the information there, all the things you can download. And if people are going to find you, they say, "Oh, I have this business. You should check it out." Hey, first thing they say is the landing page. And so that's the impression that someone gets when they log onto your site. It's your cover image. And hopefully the cover image is strong enough that they'll want to dig deeper and actually read the story of your business and what you can do and your products and services. So these are some of the sites we've done. The Propeller Club of Northern California. Someone will recognize that. Atlas. And these have, a lot of these have sliders too, but that's one of the images going Bob Summers, tax law specialist. And this is a water management company up in Napa. This is Jim Marshall Photography, famous photographer. Perino Real Estate, Cunningham Moving and Storage, Bloom International. This is a new client of ours that built this luxury yacht up in Vancouver, who takes world tours for clients. So the takeaway is branding basically is how people feel about your business and about you and about the products and services you provide. So that's what I think cover arts basically do. So back to the idea of book branding. So we do book design and publishing services. We design the cover design, page formatting, layout design, illustration, editorial consulting, copy editing, print-ready digital artwork, account setup for print on demand, book trailer videos, and social media marketing. We can do just one of these or all of the above. We're happy to do any of it. So that's on our landing page, which has animation, but it's one still image. So, to close, that's me in the pioneer days, still holding a gun, and that's our family now, today. So, that's my show. Who has a question?
On that last book that you wrote, you told me a story about the cover and how that inspired you to start writing that book.
Yeah.
Could you say that?
Yeah,
Tell the story?
every book that I've written, I don't write novels the way some people write novels. Say, I think I'm going to write about this subject matter or this or that. Every one of my novels has a story behind it of what inspired me to write the book. And the one, Goddess, Son of Medusa, was interesting. I actually designed the, so I can go back to it. I did this when I was working on God, Sex, and Psychosis. I was coming up with different ideas for the cover, and I came up with this. Where is it here? Almost there. There you go. Now it's going too fast. I've been hitting too many of them. So anyway, I came up with this design, and I liked it, but I thought it was too weird. I just didn't think it was right for the cover. So I put it aside, and on social media, I belonged to a few artistic groups, and someone was saying, Todd, post more of your artwork. And so I dug this image up, and someone on our group said, oh wow, I like that image, that looks like it should be the cover of a novel called Goddess. So I said, oh. So I gave it some thought and was thinking I didn't know anything about it, but I sat down and started writing with the idea. I thought, well, it looks like kind of Medusa. And so I wrote the first prologue page of it based on that, but it inspired me, and then I came up with the whole concept of this modern day myth of Medusa, that maybe the myth of Medusa was based on an actual person, a woman that had wild hair, maybe dreadlocks and stuff, and she had this ability to turn men into stone, not literally, but figuratively, with her mind, like hypnotizing them in some fashion. And anybody that has a power, especially a woman, that can do something like that is considered dangerous. And people things that are considered dangerous, like spiders and deadly spiders and snakes, are considered ugly and so forth. So this myth possibly developed that's based on a real person, and so with that concept in mind, I brought it to the modern day time where this is her descendant who is intersex. And I don't want to give away too much of the story, but it's an interesting one. I think it's funny and it's profound and actually timely and timeless. Anyway.
So Todd, how long have you been writing novels, and how many have you done?
I've done 7 novels and about 10 different books, I think. I started when I was 22. I had the concept for the Center's Edge. That was the first book I tried to write, and I couldn't do it. I mean, I did. I wrote the whole thing. In fact, like I said, I wrote three books, pretty long too. But and the one Ashwood was the latest one. That was my second attempt at a novel. It's a family saga. It's a really the patriarch is had severe strokes. Is paralyzed completely. He's at the family gathering on Christmas Day. It all takes place on Christmas Day, and all the flashbacks of what happened to his wife, and it goes from his meeting of her when they were teenagers to all the way to her, what happens to her death. And I was saying is that I just realized that at the time I didn't have the life experience to write this, and I liked the concept a lot, but I just didn't have the material. So to answer your question, I started writing when I was 22, and then I was in my 40s when I finally wrote the Exports of Silence. So it took me all that time to really do it. And then, if I can elaborate on what really helped was having a family and kids. Because I took a hiatus for all that to these 3 failed novels. Had kids, we were rebuilding our house, and I would take my young daughters out to the park, and I carried around a notebook, and I started writing again. That's where the story poems came from. And I started writing, and I said, oh wow, these are pretty good. And then I embarked on writing Explosive Saturn.
And do you ever get writer's block? Do you get right into that? Or you hear about that kind of thing?
No, not when I start a book. I mean, I'm really passionate about it. I think only about that. And the only 2 times during the process of a novel, Center's Edge, I came and I thought I painted myself into a corner, basically. I said, how the hell am I going to get out of that? And I was able to, but yeah, Mike.
Todd, is there kind of a sweet spot for a novel? I know you've done novellas and novels, but say when you start off, is your marketing, is it 200 pages, 300 pages, for me, or, I mean, I know it's, you can't always contain a subject, but is your marketing book, is it in the goal?
You know, I don't even think marketing really. It's a passion that I have, and if I like the story, I hope other people like it. The two short ones, the novella, the Goddess, Son of Medusa, and Portrait of a Rainbow as a Young Man, both are very short books, and I intentionally wanted them to be, partially because not that many people are reading, it seems like, anymore, and our attention span seems to be diminishing, and so, you know, these are shorter books that you can actually read in one sitting. And so I experimented with that. This latest one is a much larger one. It's like 300 pages long. So,
When you're basically an unknown, you talked about the name above the title. That was really true of your Broadway circuit. If the name above the title could sell tickets, they put the name above the title. Your old school, your Sammy Davis's and whatever. So when you're an unknown, how do you sit and blend the landing page equals the cover page? The trigger words blending with the artwork. So when I'm going to a bookstore or looking online, there's something that just draws me to that. It's either a trigger word, it's the color, it's the title, it's all of it, but there must be a blending of how that all comes together.
yeah, I agree. And I don't know, it's intuitive. It's over the years, it's just, you know, images and ideas come to me. And like, for example, the book God, Sex, and Psychosis, that was the third book, failed book that I tried to write. It was actually pretty good. There were sections of it. It was actually called Trial Separation, the original title. But then after I finished writing Heretofore, I was sitting down and I was reading the book Gone Girl. I don't know if anybody's read that. But I was so impressed with that book, and suddenly, after reading that book, I said, oh my God, I know how to go back and rewrite this particular book, and I called it God, Sex, and Psychosis, but it was told from the person with multiple personality was the main story going. He was being treated by a psychiatrist, and when I realized that the story has to be, the second part is the story of the psychiatrist, and you realize she's equally as screwed up as is hiding her own secrets. And they knew each other when they were, this person with multiple personality saved her life when she was a child. She went through this. So it was, anyway, I can't get a little short, but I just knew how to do it, and I went back and I was just suddenly passionate about it, and I was able to rewrite the whole thing. So.
And when you create a cover, it's like they always have songwriters and lyricists. What comes first, the lyrics or the music, or the lyrics? Everybody has a different answer. Do you need a trigger word to get you create your artwork?
Well, like the thing I mentioned with the goddess one, is the same way with the Portrait of a Rainbow. That was a similar thing. I posted that image. This was that illustration. When I was in my 20s, for Christmas presents, I did about 15 of those things. I gave them out. And so I had this artwork, and I posted on social media. Someone said, oh my God, I love that. It looks like it should be the cover of a novel. Ding. And suddenly I wanted to write the story. But also to answer your question, I have to have the opening line for a book first. You know, I wait, and it just, you know.
Not the title, but the opening
Opening line, not the title. The title sometimes comes later. But I also, pretty soon after, I want to know how it's going to end. And how I get there, I'm not sure sometimes. And even the ending will change a little bit. But it's especially like the Portrait of a Rainbow, that book was like magic to me. I wrote that in 6 weeks during the holidays, starting on Thanksgiving Day and ended it right at about New Year's. That thing was going through my head during family gatherings, going out and things, and dialogue was coming through my head. At nighttime, the whole thing was like a movie, you know, coming out. And it's just, I don't know, some you get inspired by this. Other ones are harder to work out, like God, Sex, and Psychosis.
It's a good thing it didn't happen when your daughters were young, or you would have lost the kids.
Probably. Yeah, Michael.
I have a million questions for you, but I'm going to narrow it to two. Have you thought about, you have a good speaking voice, have you thought about narrating your own books on audio books.
Yeah, I did a few story films there somewhere posted. And my daughters keep saying, like, heretofore, my dad said, you got to do an audio on this. And I started, it's a lot of work. And I don't know, I probably should. You can hire people to do it, but it's, Patrick.
So I hired a company, an outside company, to do a background in my company, and we were trying to explore some advertising opportunities. And I was shocked with the response I got back, with the feedback. The gentleman or the company said, well, your biggest asset or your biggest commodity is your name recognition. And for me, I thought it would be, the service would be provided. And how do you use that in this situation, trying to market yourself?
Say that again. My hearing's not as good.
So we were exploring some advertising opportunity. And Sarge, we gave some background on the company and what was our biggest asset. And they came back and said, look, your name recognition is your number one asset.
Right.
And my question to you is, how do you use that to brand yourself?
Right. Well, in relation to book design, publishing stuff, and movies and so forth, this social media is really a strong platform, I think, to get the message. They can be short clips about your business, about if it's a book about your business, a story about your business. I think that's, and there's so many platforms now with Instagram and Facebook and TikTok and all those things. Just with, LinkedIn with business, but you're doing short videos to promote it is what I would recommend. You have a question? You?
In school, they always say the first thing you have to do is write an outline. And you don't want to do it anyway. Do you write an outline or do you just go?
I tried to early on. I don't do that anymore. I have an idea of sometimes how it's going to go and what the outline's in my head. I used to be obsessive about if I had an idea, I have to write it down. I have to write this down or I'll forget it. I don't do that anymore. It's just if the idea, like Paul McCartney said about writing songs with women, he didn't write it down. He said if the song is good enough, you'll remember it. And it has to be memorable. And it's the same way with the way I approach novels. I have the concept in my head and a vision that I want to get to, and then I just intuitively, write until I get there. But no, I don't do it. If you're doing a nonfiction book, you have to have an outline. You have to pretty much outline what the book's going to be about, especially if you're submitting it to a agent or a publisher. They need to see an outline. They need to see what the synopsis is, the whole thing. But since this is, to me, I'm not a bestseller by any means. It's a passion of mine, and I love art. So I just do it. It's my vision. It's kind of like someone that wants to do a movie, and you want to be the director, the producer, all the actors, everything, and you get to edit it yourself. You don't have someone telling you, no, you want to cut this, you want to change the ending, and so forth. And that's one of the things I love about writing, especially fiction, is that you can be, if you're an actor, you have to work with what you got, the physicality, the age you're at, and so forth. There's some prosthetics you can do to change, but if you're a writer, you can be any age, any gender, any ethnicity, whatever, and it's a fun thing to do, to get into these characters. I think over a period of time, I've developed a lot of characters I can draw from, by observing people and so forth. The book God, Sex, and Psychosis about dissociative identity disorder, one of the reasons I wrote that, the idea came from me when I was in college. I was studying psychology, and it was a course on abnormal psychology, and I was so fascinated with that subject, multiple personality disorder. This would be a great idea for a novel. And the other thing is, I think that we're all basically multiple personalities to a degree. But if it becomes an illness, that's a whole other thing. But we all have our own personalities. We act different around kids. We act different around various people, business associates, clients, and stuff. And so you have to have that skill, and as a writer, you develop that more and more so you can actually, like John Fowles, the writer, said, to write the text, you have to live in the myth of it. You have to be there. You have to feel you were actually in that spot to make it come to life. I don't know if I answered your question.
Different folks have talismans, like Stephen King famously, the Underwood typewriter is his talisman. Engineers have slide rule mechanical pencils. I'm curious if you have talismans that you sort of engage when you're writing.
So, what the tools I use?
Well, like, not just the tools you use, but like the things that say, I'm sitting down to write something,
Yeah.
as opposed to just sitting here.
In other words, I think he means that you've got the definite thought in your mind, right?
No, actually physical objects that you associate with the act of creativity in the same way that some writers prefer a certain keyboard or typewriter.
Oh no. Well, I wrote first novels. They're all electric typewriter. Transfer over when it's all on a computer. I love it because, the other thing that's really great about writing is that, whether it's nonfiction or right, is that the internet is so powerful. Actually, when I worked on Exploits of Saturn, I took out so many books from the library, research. I can read a book on artificial intelligence or nanotechnology or whatever. I read the whole book, I get maybe a paragraph for the book, an idea for it. And you have to check it out. You have to look at, well, now with the internet, there's so much information out there that you can just search it and say, I want to find out about this subject, and you can just get this for free. It's a great resource and library for a writer. It's just, it's heaven.
Just one more question. Well, you use the word novel a lot in your discussion today. How much, I don't know exactly the definition of a novel, but it's fiction, but there's somewhat of reality as well.
Well, how I see novels, something that hasn't been done before, but that's really not really what, but it is fiction.
Okay.
Yeah, fictional story. So,
Yep.
yeah. Oh, I have some giveaways.
Oh boy.
So, I got a couple of these books. They're the case-bound books for Goddess, Son of Medusa, and Portrait of a Rainbow as a Young Man. So, I'd like to give these to someone that actually would like to read them. It's it's arbitrarily, but let's see. Think of a question here. So, how many novels have I written?
7.
Okay. Anybody want to read this?
Yeah. Different question.
Which one?
Different question. I love the sex one.
Which one?
The sex one?
The Goddess one? Okay. What's that?
You, it's like a big club, you gotta bring it back next week.
Try another question. Are we on time already?
You're good. You can do it.
We can do a drawing. Do you want to do a drawing?
Oh, sure, do a drawing.
Let me get this back. Put it in the drawing.
Oh.
We have cards for everyone.
Okay, I'll do it.
Anywhere, not everything like here, but we can just not.
I didn't see that at the beginning. I didn't. I had those. Oh, you're good. You can update the I don't know why I didn't do it. Laziness, I guess.
It doesn't look like everybody.
Sure, it's a really good idea.
Is this good enough?
What's that?
Oh, wait, hold on.
No, it's
I
not.
have no pen on it. Should we speak to you?
I'm keeping track of the date.
Denise, that's you. You are. Hold yourself.
Which one do you want?
Pick one. Whichever one you tell me to what.
Medusa.
Okay.
Another drawing?
One more.
One more.
Now we know who Julie needs to reach out to.
There, Michael Boy!
Okay, so now, Keith, this is what is required to do a book report.
With an outline.
Sorry, help me do that real quick.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you, everybody.